Hello and welcome to Discovering True Health, your weekly deep dive into health and wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all our upcoming shows. We also have a lot more great information on our website, Instagram, and Facebook. All those links are below. So today we'll be learning about another great modality called Brain Reboot that can help us mitigate stress and chronic pain. And we'll be also talking about how stress and chronic pain can be linked. Now, this is a modality that I've personally been using over the last 6 years now, and it's not only been pretty life-changing with mitigating my chronic hip pain, but it's also really impacted my overall well-being. So we've talked a lot on this show with experts how stress is very detrimental to our health. And in short bursts, stress can be positive, but when stress lasts for a long time and we get stuck in that fight or flight, it can harm our health, put our body into a catabolic state of breaking down, suppress our immune system, and cause many other detrimental health issues. And chronic pain can lead to complications beyond the physical symptoms, such as new or worsened depression, anxiety, and difficulty sleeping. So these are both a big part of true health that we need to mitigate as much as possible. And this brain reboot technique is one of the great tools we can use to help us overcome and manage stress. So my guest today is David Bransky. He's founder of the Brain Reboot Studio, and his goal is to help his clients effectively release and recover from the most intense life challenge we'll ever face, which is silent and unrelieved stress. He's also a dear friend of mine, and he has been my practitioner over the last 6 years. And this is something I really wanted to have a conversation on and bring more awareness to, because it's helped me so much in my life and has practically eliminated my chronic hip pain. So thank you, David, so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Christy, for finally having me. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yes, we got you on. Now, I've known you for a long time, and this is for something I don't know about you, and you've been my practitioner, like I said, for 6 years. What inspired you to become a brain reboot practitioner? How did you learn about it and find out about it? And how has this modality helped you personally in your life?
Well, born and raised in LA, rode motorcycles on the side, just passion in life, and met someone who performed this process at the time. When he explained the process, it seemed interesting because it seemed different, out of the norm from usual healing modalities. And I always noticed I had some sort of imbalance, leg shorter than the other. And at the same time, I always felt like I could just feel like get my head pulled out of my shoulders. Like there was always that wantingness. So I put it in the universe, but it ended up showing up like this guy providing this type of alignment process. Takes about 30 seconds to perform. And when I experienced it, I was enamored. It's very hard to describe. So he was talking about brain balance, body balance, stress. To be honest, I didn't hear a whole lot when he was explaining it, but when he performed it, I saw colors brighter. I had a big smile on my face I couldn't get rid of. Everybody around at work especially noticed that there was some sort of glow. I just looked really more grounded. I did not come in for pain like most people do. I came in simply because of curiosity. And all I can tell you is that I asked him a lot of questions. I asked him a lot of fear-based questions. Can you kill someone doing this? I mean, are you sure you haven't hurt anybody? I mean, I asked him all the questions in the world. And why haven't I heard of this before? I mean, it's like the best stress release thing I've ever found. And I've tried a lot of different kinds of things. And at any rate, it looked like a neat profession. I was looking for a new profession. I'm pretty social. I really liked offering this service just simply because it helps people in such a tremendous way. And so I went hook, line, and sinker and signed up for the program. It takes about a year to complete. Once a month, you go back and forth. It's located in Dallas. And I learned from incredible people that created this process within the last 100 years. So they've definitely perfected this process. and have been doing it since then, nonstop. It's something I never plan on quitting ever.
Please don't.
No,
We need you.
it's so amazing. It's so amazing.
It really is. It's changed my life, and I can attest to that. It's like, you experience it. It's intense, but the way it just kind of realigns everything and allows your body to realign and relieve stress and all that. It's incredible. So let's kind of get into the fundamentals first so we can understand those. And you have a diagram in your studio and on your business card. That's a really great visual example of how this works and why it works, and how stress affects our bodies. And when I saw this picture, it completely resonated with me and made so much sense. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. So can you explain what that diagram kind of means? Explain the, kind of fundamentals of it. Why is it that everyone nowadays seems to have some sort of imbalance on one side of the body or the other and has ongoing chronic pain? And why is it that very few of us are in a natural state of balance?
Well, to start out, basically, each hemisphere of your brain controls the opposite half of your body. So imagine this split right down the middle. So ideally, the two hemispheres of your brain are communicating energy and information through a bridge, a corpus callosum. And the thing is that if all systems go, life is groovy, no immediate threat or danger, everything is in balance. Brain hemispheres are in balance, which means that your body's in balance. If we take the premise that you have life energy, innate intelligence that's operating your system, what happens is if the wisdom within, the innate intelligence perceives danger, going back, way back, wild tiger, beast, meeting a hunter-gatherer, I mean, it's fight or flight, okay? I'm sure people have heard of fight or flight. There's another thing actually called faint or freeze. So all of these mechanisms are survival related. So survival is more important than running the ship the way it's supposed to, healing, digestion, thinking, balance. Stress is geared for battle. You're a boxer waiting for a fight. You're a soldier at the front lines prepared for something to happen. So that mode of fight or flight stays on and prioritizes. When that happens, there's a sequence of events that takes place in milliseconds. One side of the brain slows down, and the other side speeds up. Okay, so there's a ratio, kind of like a car engine, one being idle and the other one speeding up, or 1 foot on the gas, a foot on the brake. But you're not going anywhere, you're just wearing out faster. When that happens in the brain, energy is borrowed and taken from one side to the other. The body will express selective muscular weakness on one side and tension and contraction on the other. So you'll see people who they'll stand on their more dominant side. You'll even see at the end of the day, more particularly than in the morning, when you've had a day full of stimulation, if you sit down and put your legs in front of you, you'll see one leg will be shorter than the other. It's not because of your bones being shorter than the other. You're supposed to be in balance. It's because one side of the body muscularly is more contracted. It's pulling up. And then the other thing also to test for is weakness, strength rather. So you can actually feel as though one side will be stronger than the other if someone was to give you a strength test. And this is not correlated to dominance in your arm. If you're right-handed, that's not exactly correlated. So the problem is that the person stays in that state because the body doesn't know when is a good time that this scenario, this 20 minutes of holy cow, survivalistic mode, when are we allowed to come out of it? Because it's the low-grade everyday stimulation that keeps us in that frog in room temperature water, and that the temperature of the water slowly rises. The frog is going to stay in there and try and endure, and it's quashing all of its adrenals. It's doing everything it can to try and survive the circumstance. But by the time it wants to jump out of this hot water to survive, it's cooked, it's fried, it's got nothing left. This is going on for many, many, many people where they're wired and tired. Yeah. So the body expressing its imbalance, indicating you're using your life force, your life energy outwardly instead of inwardly. And over time, your body just starts to scream for help in various non-specific ways.
So that can be the actual root cause of some chronic pain, is this prolonged stress and our body kind of getting stuck in this stress state, that fight or flight.
Exactly. So if you were to do like a great fight or flight would be like a short burst of a run. Okay. Your body is designed to do that. It needs to be used or else it rusts. So sitting on the couch, going through social media or watching TV over a prolonged period of time, not very good. Okay. So the body is designed to be used, but it has a cycle. So there's rest and recovery. Then of course there's activity using that thing, but doing it deliberately. And people who have a deliberate life, they're like who are disciplined, they function better in all ways, shape, or form. And that's the more ideal way of living a life.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done an episode about, how sitting is the new smoking, they're calling it. And it's like you should, try standing while you're working and then when you get tired, then sit, and try moving around or take little breaks and move around. And another thing, when you mentioned the right and left hemisphere, how the right hemisphere controls the left side, because I would always get a lot of contraction in my left side. So that would kind of be like my right side control is like logic, and is it like logic and
It would be. So the left side of the brain is the more logical.
or the left side? Okay. And the
left side of the brain,
right.
which controls the right side of your body.
Right. So if I'm getting contraction in my left side, that would mean my creative hemisphere is more kind of
You 100% are right brain dominant. So you're more creative, artistic, intuitive, psychic, sensitive, a bit like mother hen, wanting to make sure everybody's taken care of. So there's never a time to feel as though everything, life is great. You could just simply kick back and rest. There's always this, what or who do I need to worry or take care of? And that's not a bad quality. It's just that there's a dominance in it, and you don't have easy access to your left brain. So it doesn't mean you don't have any left brain characteristics. It just means there is a lack of easy movement from one side of the brain and to the other.
So therefore it's contracting my left side more, which is why I would always get that pain in my left hip, and also get my left leg would literally be shorter than my right hip.
And what's neat about you, if I can confess, knowing you over many years, you stay in shape. So the thing is that you have a great diet, incredible balance in regards to stress in comparison to many other people who I run into. And thankfully that you are very, very strong. The downfall is that if you work a lot and you produce a lot and you create a lot, so you're always very stimulated, not bad, but the muscles on the left side of your body are just going to stay activated and doesn't have a chance to really kind of rest as much as one could.
Got it. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And that's why when, we do the brain reboot, it really kind of readjusts that energy balance within the brain. So then the body releases that left side and you kind of go back into a state of balance.
So when the reboot happens, the intelligence within does it. So your brain takes this reboot effect, this pattern interrupt, like rebooting your computer, rebooting your cell phone. It goes through a systems check. It realizes that all those stress signals that needed to turn off, and instantaneously over 100 physiological changes takes place. Hemispheres of your brain unite, accessed information equally shared, goes into an alpha rhythm and natural idle speed of your brain. And then all the overly tight, tense muscles relax, weak muscles strengthen so that your body comes back into a natural state of congruency. Blood flow goes back into your core. Eyesight goes back into peripheral instead of zoom in focus. You're less into the future. You're more present. I mean, it's just, that's another subject all unto itself.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. The feeling after, and that was a key thing you said. It's not, the brain root isn't like, I would go to physiotherapists and they would shove my hip back into place and shove my sacrum back into place and yank my leg. It really is where it allows your body that innate part of you to readjust all of that. It's not, you're not physically like shoving all this stuff back into place. The brain reboot actually allows all that to happen.
The thing that happens through this process, because most people come in for symptoms, okay? 90% of the people come in for pain. I don't take away their pain. I don't guarantee that their pain is to be relieved. It's a byproduct of coming out of a stress response that they've been probably stuck in for decades. Right. What's crazy is that, people talk about like life hacks, or this new food group that's really good to add to your life to really enhance it. I mean, all those things are wonderful and great. But what happens with this is that you feel lighter, you have less head noise. So you start actually connecting to your intuition once again. And the argument between the brain and the heart start to lessen. And so there's just a lot. Oh my God. It's just relationships are saved. I mean, people want to start to actually like take care of themselves naturally. Okay. Not like I gave them suggestions on their own. They do it on their own. It's not like a weekend course to like do a self-help,
right.
And so to watch people's lives improve, sure, even if they're less in pain, that they go out and have a better life, but that's again, not about symptoms. It's all about improving and enhancing your life with less BS, less chatter.
And I can attest to that. You talk about it kind of puts your brain back in the alpha, it's alpha waves, I think you said, right?
It is alpha.
Yeah. And I can attest to the, the feel like after the brain reboot, I would sit there and you just feel the sense of grounding, and it does put you in a different state of mind. You're suddenly, really feel really connected to those around you. You feel connected differently to the world around you. You feel more present. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It is. It's very incredible. It's, tell me more. I mean, what other things have you noticed getting this done on the regular?
I mean, so what I thought was interesting, because this was actually an amazing test, I think, for it, because I had seen you when we both lived in Los Angeles for about 6 years. It's 2014, I think it was. And, and I had seen you at first because I was having, many, many years, this terrible hip pain where I'd get to the point where I can't walk well. And a friend of mine told me about this, and I had tried everything. So many, like I'd gone to the best physiotherapists in, Shaquille O'Neal's physiotherapist in New York. And, and like I said, they would just shove me back in place, and it seemed to work for a while, and then it would just fall back out again, and it just wouldn't stay. Nothing stuck. So yeah, at that point I was like, all right. And I'm pretty open-minded about, trying, a lot of different things. And, and like I said, when I saw your card, I was like, oh, so yeah, after I think I saw you the first, I think it was a month or two, we would do it like every three days just to, because it get me in a good place. And then after that, it was just kind of maintenance. But
yes,
after, the first, I don't know, month of just getting my body, back flowing right, and all the muscles, stopped their holding on contraction. I mean, I started working out like back like I used to do when I was doing fitness competitions. I was mind blown because I never thought I'd be able to work out like that again. And then cut to 2021, or was it 2020? I think it was 2020, 2021. When I moved out of LA, and you moved out of LA. And I had not done Alpha Beta session for about a year. And I had been in incredible pain. Every day I'd wake up, just this maybe a level 5 to 7 hip pain every day, just like, and it was affecting my mind, it was affecting my sleep. And I was like, oh, and I had worked with somebody on trying to see if it was muscle imbalance. And it seemed to work for like a week. And then all of a sudden I had the worst hip pain episode that I've had in a long time. And I was pretty much crippled for a while. And I was like, oh no. And then that's when I contacted you. I'm like, do you have anybody in my area? And you actually ended up having a good friend that does this in my area. So 2 sessions in, hip pain was gone and didn't come back. And what was interesting was he was, out for about a month. So I didn't see him, and I had a very stressful week. And I knew, because you once you do this a while, you can tell when the stress and you're trying to like
Kind of get
mitigate
addicted.
it mentally, and you're trying like, okay, I need to calm my right brain and the left side of my brain down and try to, relax. But it didn't go into my hip, it went into my upper back, which I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it's not going as far or as deep as it was before. So I thought that was an interesting shift too. And it was literally, I guess my body's now kind of used to this brain reboot process. So after 2 sessions, it was just like backward. Oh, okay, yeah, we're back in the kind of balanced mode now, and it remembered where it was supposed to be, kind of.
It does. That's the amazing thing too. It's if someone were to get 20 sessions in a year, ideally the most benefit would be the 20 sessions early on in the year, if you had to break it up within a year, as opposed to breaking it 20 sessions throughout the year. So because of you doing that beginning portion, your body does have a memory, and every month of alignments, I think it's faster than this, but every month of alignments for cycles, it breaks down 1 year's worth of held in unrelieved stress. So
Wow.
people will have memories, or feelings or visions that they hadn't had in ages. So again, it's really kind of interesting to see this unwinding effect, and it's so needed because the well-intended different modalities that exist, they just don't work as well as they should or could from in the past, because everybody's stress levels are through the roof.
Well, and I feel like the difference is, because when I first moved here, I tried a type of it. There's two types of chiropractic, I guess. One where it's more general, one where they're very specific and they deal with root cause. And that seemed to help for a bit. And then I got my hip just fell out, and I couldn't get back the alignment. And I was like, I think the difference, again, the key is like this: you're allowing what you do, this brain reboot, it allows the innate intelligence in your body, instead of physically going to that spot and shoving it back in. No, you're actually getting to kind of more the root of it, which is rebalancing and kind of allowing the body to do it, I guess.
The power that made the body, the power that sustains the body, the power that heals the body, it's not me. It's not as a practitioner or anybody else outside of the body. I don't know what your body needs, but your body does. The thing is, and it wants to, it knows to, but it just can't come out of that priority state of survival. And all I'm doing in this profession, God willing, and others, but specifically this one, we're just getting to the source, which is your brain operates your whole system. It's at a priority checklist. So when it comes out of that stress response, the results that occurs for an individual, it's profound. It's crazy how something so simple, so fast, so safe and effective gets so many results, and yet isn't really well known.
I know.
Yeah,
That's the crazy
crazy.
part. So I really want to do the show with you, because I'm like, it's off, I guess you'd say, off the beaten path of, you don't really hear of it unless it's kind of word of mouth. I feel like more or less you'd really find out about it, unfortunately, because this could help, so many people in so many ways. And speaking of stress, and I love the way you describe this with this, you have a great analogy for this. How does prolonged stress negatively affect us physiologically, mentally, and emotionally, just so we can kind of get a good understanding of that?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, you could see someone just on a physical platform, you could see that they're hunched over. You could just see that they look older than how they chronologically are. But the other thing is our method or adaptation to stress. So you have more people that have, like even just going shopping, or especially like a city, you could just tell that it takes very little to probably set someone off. So they are so wound up. And that energy at one point or another, if it comes out, it has to come out in a way of like, some sort of depression, or anger or resentment, just some sort of, and that's natural, it's a good thing if that happens, if they allow that to happen. Many times people are, they're medicated. They they're couch potatoes and they eat like shit. So just because it makes them feel better, and this is not shaming in any way, this is just the case. Social media doesn't do a great job. So it's actually, the trick is returning to take full responsibility for your life. Do not blame anything outside of yourself. That takes a little while and practice to get that instilled. It's easy to be a victim and not take responsibility for things, but when you do, it's a life worth living. Everybody else is in some sort of kind of suffering or in some sort of hell. But at the same time, you do have a choice to make better choices in your life, because everybody around you, family included, all of the above, they're affected in one way or another. You're either going to take yourself down and the ship goes with you, or you're going to be one of those people that gets their things together in order and is a beacon for light and support. So it's a life worth living. It is. But you have to kind of be willing to surrender, and that means that you don't hold your breath. How many people hold their breath? And so it's an endless thing of breathing in, breathing out constantly. So checking in with yourself and then also checking in the environment around. It takes practice, but I'd have to say that'd be the best. Honestly, I'd say those are the best steps, truly. Surrender.
Yeah, absolutely. Now
As much as I got.
You do like an assessment before you do your sessions. So can you kind of walk us through what this assessment looks like? Why is it so important? What do you assess and what do you kind of learn from the assessment?
To eliminate the woo-woo effect of it being like energy, quote unquote, or a spiritual process or a therapy that people want to put on it, I show them that the brain actually has imbalance, favoritism, and controls the body. So I'll show them one leg appears shorter, one hip is high and potentially rotated, one shoulder can also be high, and it's oftentimes on one side. And oftentimes too, people will confess, oh, I've had this injury in that spot, or oh, it's also on my left side of my hip. Oh, when I ran, it's my left ankle. Well, why is it all on your left side? What's that about? And then showing them. We'll do a strength test, which is the biggest giveaway of all. And one side will be stronger than the other, okay? And we test their arms and their legs, and basically showing that if you're split down the middle, that you're in a stress state. And if you stay like this, in this pervasive imbalanced mode, you're using your life energy, your life source, not as efficiently as you possibly could. So the next step then is performing this process and rechecking them. Did the brain come in balance? Did the hemispheres unite? And if so, the body should express and show itself. Legs even, hips level, greater strength throughout the body, arms and legs. And that is scientific, showing tactile proof that there is something happening besides placebo effect or anything of that nature. And when people, even when they stand up, I mean, you'll see they stand up more straight, their peripheral opens up, their posture naturally, they're just more grounded. And again, it's not me telling them to be this way. This is a natural stage. And so that is the overall, that is the assessment and the alignment or the reboot if they decide to get it.
Yeah, and my personal experience, and that's what I really appreciated with the assessment. You do that when you talked about the strength testing portion where, you lift your left leg or your left arm and then you'd push, and it would shock me how weak one side I couldn't even hold it up and the other side would just be strong. And that showing of wow, the amount of imbalance going on between the one side of the body and the other, and then immediately after it would be like equal strength. I mean, it would happen instantaneously right after after you would do the work. So,
I mean, it didn't start out as a brain reboot process. It did start out as gravity was the ultimate unrelieved stress, that gravity is actually such a weight, a stressor that, you have to lie down and in order for your body to heal and expand and life energy go back into your nerves and your system. I mean, your third of your life is spent laying on your back with your eyes closed. And we're not even actually getting good sleep. So we're not even recharging the way we're supposed to. But we found out there was some sort of reset or communication device to the innate wisdom that allows the system to naturally want to come out of this stress response. We've also used different machines, electromyographs, which tests muscular tension. We've used Kirlian cameras to show heat throughout the body that disperses differently before and after. So, I mean, we've done some science studies to it. The downfall with people believing in science, especially these days, the more you try and show them how that it works through that, the more people tend to question and disbelieve, which are mostly left brain dominant people. So the process is experiential. That's another thing too, is that I only really want to work with people that are open to receiving it, that truly want to get better, not someone to see a parlor trick.
Right. And I think, for me, I found out about you and your work through a friend, and it's kind of, it really helps when, you're referred to somebody, especially when it comes to something that's different that you've never heard of. And yeah, you don't want people that are just coming not open-minded and let me try this out and let me see if it works for me, because you can try to see if it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I don't think you've ever worked with anyone where it doesn't work for them.
No, I mean, it works. Some people deny it.
Right.
And some people want miracles, honestly. I mean, if they're 80, they're not going to be 20. They're missing a leg. A leg ain't going to grow back to this thing. Right. So there is actually damage beyond the body's ability to repair itself. So it's hard for people to get that. I 100% get that. It's just, they want some sort of attachment to an outcome. And, in this process in life, you don't get that many guarantees. So at any rate, most people, they're incredibly appreciative. They most of the time come in for physical ailments and issues, but there are those that really enjoy it for much more. So everybody has a different avenue of what they're going through. If they're going through a divorce, they're not necessarily coming in for pain. They're going through some emotional anguish and torment, and perhaps hostility. And, they're just trying to get grounded, and this seems to work for them.
Right.
So the ones that come to me, like yourself, they've tried everything else. They've spent everything. They've gone to everybody, every famous person, every amazing person, and they're just desperate and they're willing to come and try anything. And those are the ones that come to me. So I'm used to being in that position.
I understand. I really wish this was more mainstream. It frustrates me when, there are modalities that I try that are just, they're not mainstream and out there for that are kind of accepted by, I know things get political and there's a lot of politics and weird stuff that goes on with the health and the health industry. So yeah, that's frustrating for me, especially from my experience when it's worked. I mean, it's quite astounding how amazing it works.
It is. It's God, I mean, it's just neat to hear the story. You kind of get used to it and expect to hear miraculous stories from people after a while.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine doing any other kind of profession. And, or like if a chiropractor who there's some that I absolutely just love and adore and their intention's good and they help people and, but it's like if people, I'd say, look, come in and get a session with me first, if you had to choose, and then go to all of these other modalities. So it's not a competition. It's a compliment,
Yes.
where I get a massage after seeing me, you'll get bang for your buck because you're taking that tight string around a finger off. So now there's blood flow and life energy coming back into the finger. That's the way to look at this guy. And again, just miracle after miracle. And yeah, it's going to be word of mouth. And that's quite all right. The good thing is it's done very quickly.
Yeah.
And it does work.
Yeah.
And there's going to be lots and lots of happy people who, if they ask for this type of process to show up in their life, asking the universe for it, like I did, then they will appear.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a very quick process. It only takes minutes. It's like nothing you'll ever experience before, which I can
Yeah.
attest to. Is there any way to kind of describe, because we've kind of alluded to this the whole time. Is there any way to describe kind of what it looks like and why it's so effective, the actual, the process of it?
It's hands-on. You'll lay on your back on an angled massage table or alignment table. I take your head cradled in my arms. So it's a very neutral position. There's no twisting or torquing of any kind. This is not a chiropractic adjustment.
Right.
So we're above the spine. So we're outside of the spinal category altogether. But it is this deliberate extension that allows there to be a pattern interrupt. Imagine a straw before you sip on a soda or drink or whatnot. You just feel that extension. You feel warmth coming on through your neck.
Mm-hmm.
You often,
sometimes
you get glowy.
Yeah.
You often see better, hear better. You feel more in your body. You don't feel so fragmented. What's crazy, at least for me, that I enjoyed so much, I forgot how to smile. I had this big grin on my face. I couldn't get rid of it. And I slept for 3 days thereafter. And, and then like 2 weeks, I got another session and I remember sweating profusely and just, what is this all about? But your body knows exactly what to do. It'll never do more than you can handle. And I just felt like $1,000,000. Yeah. So, it is experiential. It's 15 to 30 seconds. You just feel taller. You feel lengthened.
Yes.
And you could breathe deeper. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not knowing that your breath is probably shallow before. So it's just all of these before and after that you're kind of going like, how in the world did I go on this life as fast as much as I did? So it is experience. It doesn't feel the way it looks. The way we're talking about it doesn't match up at all to how the experience is.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of what I was saying the other day when I got my session with Alejandro, the practitioner here where I am. I had felt like, through the stress and gravity, my spine had just got crunched down. And after I was like, wow, I think you just like gave me another 2 inches. I feel like I'm 2 inches taller.
You do get about half an inch.
Yeah.
You actually do get a bit taller.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how gravity can actually really compress your whole system. So I moved to Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, last year, summer of 2021. And it's different here, meeting people and getting to know them, and just seeing their bodies, like going to the grocery store and just seeing, physically, like they're just torn up, or even mentally and emotionally, they look like they're nobody's home, but the lights are on.
Right.
It's just getting some people open at the right time in their life to try something new and to go forward from there. What I do find interesting is mostly women come and see me. Women in general are more open to taking care of themselves.
Like I go to all these classes and modalities, it's a room full of women always. And maybe there's like 3 men.
Or gay men.
Or gay men. Yeah, there's like three gay men. Yeah.
So the thing that I noticed so interestingly, though, is that especially in a relationship, let's say wife is feeling better about herself. Things are turning back on. She's feeling more of her beauty. She is returning to her life, and she's trying to get the hubby or boyfriend or whatnot in to see me as well. And most of the time there's and you're not alone.
Some of my exes in to see you.
Good looking guys, by the way. I mean, you have good taste. So, but what happens is that the guys, they'll hold the relationship back, so I don't see the wives again. and it became such a pattern. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And it's
Interesting.
interesting to see, how we'll use other people to hold ourselves back because we're afraid to move forward in our life. So again, that's an interesting facet of what we do to kind of stay cozy and safe and stuck. So be ready when you get this done. Be ready for changes to
Shift.
occur, and for there to be a support system to move you through that, depending on how much of a hole you have dug yourself at that time. Because there's could be a lot of changes, good things.
Right.
Sometimes it could feel like shit before you start seeing the fruits of your labor.
And that's such a great point you made about, being in a relationship and, somebody starts with you and starts to process and starts to shift and change and then pulls back because their partner is not on board with them. I mean, that's like a really deep-seated reptilian brain survival mechanism, because to survive, we need our community to like us. I mean, that's a survival. That's why people get like fear of speaking or fear of people not liking them. I mean, that's like a really deep-seated issue that can really affect us and really stunt our growth.
Yeah. So even if you don't have access to this process, if you could take away something, and thankfully, if you're listening to this, you're following Christy's podcast, that it's about getting the stimulation out of your system, unnecessary amount of stimulation. And there's no way around it. The more stuff you tack on, again, at one point or another, if you are ignoring those indicators, life has a funny way of showing it, and it may be very non-specific, not direct. So again, like, be conscious and deliberate about your sleeping, who you spend your time with, what you're spending your time doing, and to make sure you have a bit of grace in doing it while circumventing the craziness that goes on in this day and age. Like politically, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, but the thing is, our belief systems are so powerful, but we're the ones in control of those belief systems.
Yes.
And it's like a religion, not a bad thing, but if you become religious and vehement about it, is that benefiting you, or are you holding yourself back because of the belief systems that you told yourself that may not necessarily be true? So again, what I like, when you de-stim, all of a sudden that head noise dissipates and you feel a lot groovier. You just feel a lot more calm, but that's a lifestyle to maintain that.
Right. And that's come up a lot in a lot of the shows with different experts, is fact check your thoughts. Is that really true? Is that really 100% true all the time? It could be true sometimes, but is it always true? That self-regulation you gotta keep up on,
100% agreed. Ask the questions, but don't try and answer them. I find to be beneficial. How could this get better?
Yes.
Don't answer the question. Just to get the brain, like a parachute, works better when it's open.
Right.
So if your arms are crossed and you're just, trying to figure out fear-wise decision, it's something to do. I mean, go ahead and do it. Go for it. You're not alone. But if you're aware of doing that, just let your arms go, feel as far out as you possibly can. But again, one of the big things, like what you do in your life, is you physically move and exercise. Your brain needs that. So, I mean, that is a huge component. If you're an antenna in the middle of a city, if you're not using your body, you're a poorly lit absorbing antenna. Okay. So physically stay in shape. Doesn't mean the gym, but keep moving. Yes.
So vital. It's so vital for our overall health. I mean, like we said in past shows, sitting and non-movement is the new smoking, and it causes same type of detrimental chronic illness as smoking can. It's pretty drastic. So important. Now, we sprinkle this kind of in quite a bit, but can you kind of run down what happens physiologically, mentally, and emotional from the brain reboot adjustment and kind of the outcome?
So on the physical, less tension, significant tension drops throughout your body. Weak areas that were shut down and passive turn back on. Blood flow back into your core, blood flow back into your brain. So you have these reptilian areas, like what we talked about, that's where stress is located. You use the hind portion of the brain instead of the forward motion, forward part of your brain, brain fog. So that's the physical part at the bare minimum. Emotionally, you're more grounded. Mentally, you just start thinking a lot clearer. You can remember things much better. You just feel unclogged. So that is a big attribute. There are the downfall with Alzheimer's, dementia. Not to say this process in any way, shape, or form cures it or any of that, but definitely notice people become more present. They're a little bit less emotionally reactive. They're just more stable, especially with kids. That's the biggest thing. The procrastination for people turns off, so they get less addicted to getting off on putting things off. They just become more proactive. It's just all these innate different kinds of things. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot. I mean, it really, like you said, it depends on each person, what they need, but I mean, it's your innate intelligence that kind of does what needs to be done, kind of thing. And how would you say, what are some of the fundamental differences from other kind of modalities that work with stress relief or chronic pain? What are some fundamental differences between the brain reboot and, let's say, chiropractic or any of these other type of modalities?
Well, okay, so the medical system uses Newtonian physics, which means like if your body is like a clock, your organs are like the gears of a clock. Okay, so they're looking at it from that point of view. They'll give you medication to speed your heart rate up. They'll give you medication to slow your heart rate down. They'll give you blood pressure it's laws of contrast is what it's called. Okay, they're trying to find a balance, but your body's going to find a way around that. In quantum mechanics is that you are energy and information. So your brain is an energy absorbing, transmitting, performing entity. And it's incredibly fatty, which is what you need. You need good fat. Again, Alzheimer's. Your body is only 200 billion to 1 in favor of space, if you compare that with matter, which means that there is so much more space in a human being than the physical part that we are. So if you break all that stuff down, again, we are just energy and information. We are thought, we're consciousness. So again, it's like you think about this person you haven't thought about in a long time. Why is it that they call you or text you at that moment? I mean, again, and vice versa. So that's when we get into another world altogether. Why is it that these dreams that we have, if you choose to remember your dreams, because you do dream, that's another level of consciousness that is information, and a lot of it can be shadow material, a lot of core primitive substance for you to actually use and to integrate with, if you so choose. So again, the downfall with chiropractic, with physio, all these other modalities, they have disconnected from there being a source of power, an innate intelligence, a higher power, without the religious aspect to it, just the more of the energy-based perspective from that. And so they constantly look at the body as the physical. Well, the problem is now with insurance companies, with money, with that kind of influence, because in the 1850s, before the mainstream allopathic medical system, the AMA, for example, the turn of the 20th century, they were created by Henneman, homeopathy. It took me a while to grab that. Naturopath. Okay. So yeah, the naturopath, breathe the fresh air, use vitamin C, natural products and different kinds of things to help heal the body. And for, let's say, money's sake, synthetic chemicals made, refined by petroleum, there's good money in the medical system. So cut, burn, medicate. So Standard Oil, when they were a monopoly and they got split up, they were getting themselves into the medical industry to allopathic. And so that is not a conspiracy theory. And you could just follow the money trail. So you'll see that even with chiropractors, they fight among themselves. they have different belief systems on how to get a different result. So they can't even agree on things anymore. The way the school system is, they don't teach anything on that you're an energetic being, like how it started out. So with this process, we don't care really what your physical expression, because we don't have an attachment to an outcome. It's you got yourself to this day here, this far, 40 years old, 50 years old, whatever it is. The process is allowing the intelligence that you have to function. Now, if you eat well, if you think better, you change your, lifestyle, and you get this process done, you will have a massive difference. It doesn't take that much brain power. You don't have to be smart to do that. You just have to have the discipline in doing that. Less sugar in your body, which sugar is found in refined sugars in everything. And it's not nutrition, it's a drug.
Yeah.
So
The food industry is, we just did a show
huge.
about it.
Follow the money. Follow the
It's
money.
scary what's in our food these days.
So
It's kind of like it's the old, everything else is kind of based on Newtonian, like you said, Newtonian physics, and this is more based on quantum mechanics, like the
100%.
string theory, like we're like the very, you zoom in, and it's energy is the core kind of.
Why is it that if someone gets in an accident or whatever the case is, they get a transplant, okay, an organ transplant, and people who are not spiritual, people who are not, they could have different perspectives. They oftentimes share. They will have different memories or emotions or tastes, and those came from the donor of that organ. So again, there's consciousness, there's memory, there's information, and that we are much more than just physical beings by a long shot. And that's something to keep in mind and remember.
Absolutely. And I think, what you were talking about too, all the things that's important to do. I mean, I work out a lot. I eat right as well as I can. And I'm learning more and more about, food and what not to eat and what to eat and on all that every day. But, I do all the things, but I still need my brain reboot, adjustments to help cope with the stress in life. I mean, I need them, I do it once or twice a month just to kind of, keep my body balanced, even though I am doing all the right things too, alongside it.
It's a lifestyle. So there's no
And I guess
trophy.
it's like somebody's like, you get a massage, a couple times a month. It's kind of maintenance and upkeep and self-care.
It's a gift. It's a gift for yourself. It's not even fixing a problem. It's just adding more light to a wonderful life. I mean, thank goodness something like this exists to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and it's kind of the difference between being like, all right, do you want to be like 95% all the time, or do you want to be 100%?
You are definitely the top 10 or 5% of people. So, I mean, thank goodness, and God willing, that those who listen and follow on your show, the benefit is there for those who maintain this lifestyle.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
And how I mentioned previously, when I first came to you, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of hip pain. And when I first started, I think it was every 3 days we did for the first month or two. And then I would come in once I was completely back balanced and my body was kind of, holding in that holding pattern. I was pain free. Then I would just come in as needed or maintenance whenever I wanted to. How often would you recommend doing a brain boot recession, and kind of what's the criteria around that?
I recommend about a dozen to 20 alignments will get you out of shoveling yourself deeper in that hole. So the result actually in that period, it's very fast. It's super fast. Again, every session is different. It stages. It's wonderful, really. And then it comes down to maintenance. So my goal actually is to get you off of this crutch so that your lights stay bright as long as possible. The body holds its balance that I can measure is about 72 to 75 hours, which is pretty darn good. I think chiropractic adjustment holds about 20 minutes.
Okay.
and then you go back out. So, and again, your system doesn't reset from it. So it's just dog chasing tail in that category. And then like what you shared, it's like, oh, I feel clogged or I feel like I need to come in, so I'll come in every 2 weeks. That is right on the money. That's exactly what we want to get you to be like. I just feel like I'm missing, I need an alignment. That's the key. It's
Yeah.
not so much about like, oh, I'll go when I feel like I'm in pain. It's like,
Right.
no, I feel clogged. I want to feel better. That's when I want to come in. So that's on. So about a dozen to 20 alignments, give or take about 2 to 3 months. And then it's once a week, once every other week from then on.
Right.
And actually, the ratio is very, very good. I would say 1 out of 5 people stick with it, which is a very, very good ratio. Um, so there's not a lot of revolving door energy people coming in, what can I get, and people coming out. So word of mouth actually works better in the long run anyway.
Because you
Instead
have
of
people sticking with you for 10 plus years. Yeah.
yeah, and you kind of, you're a witness to their life. It's a shutter of the camera where you get a chance to just see where they're at this life at this moment in time, and to just see yeah, it's a wonderful process. The emotional, the spiritual, the mental, it's so much more vast than the physical. So when people come in for the physical, they get out of that discomfort and they're starting to feel good, and they keep coming in. That's really now we're talking. Now we're
Right.
talking.
Now you're getting into
Yeah.
the deeper work. And I
Yes.
think too, for me, so basically you're saying, up front, you want to do, like a higher number of sessions up front for the first month or two to kind of get your body in a good place. And then you can kind of taper off and do your maintenance. And I feel like for me, if I know if I'm having a extra really compounded stress week where I know I'm going to be like manic and a ton of stuff, going on, I'm like, okay, I need to get in there, to help me mitigate and kind of release all this.
Well, so here's the neat thing too, is that suffering is very addictive. So people will give up food. I mean, they'll give up everything else and stick with suffering. And that's the toughest one.
Wow.
So when people start feeling good, they're missing the discomfort, the pain, the irritations. So when they start feeling good, they stop coming in. And then they wait until they start feeling like crud, and then they'll, come back in. And we're trying to, it takes time, but to get you in a different mindset of, don't come in when you're in discomfort or in agony. You want to come in where you're like, oh, I feel stressed, or I want to get above it. Like, okay, now we're onto something. But it's interesting to see how people feel good. I mean, I get it. And then what they do is they push themselves harder. Then they go to the gym and add more weight. I mean, they kind of like see like, what can they do with their body. This is good. This is natural. This is a good thing. And then they screw themselves up and they come back in. But again, process, stage, process.
Right. And that's an
Yes.
interesting concept, this kind of subconscious thing where we're kind of addicted to the suffering. I mean, it's kind of a part of our identity at some point if you've
Yeah.
been suffering for a long period of time. Then you
That's
figure out
that's
how
a
to
tough one.
release and let go.
That's a tough one. I hope I'm not doing wrong. I had a guy that came in, known for a while, and he experienced the alignment. He was in great shape. He's like 60 years old, but physically, man, he was just in incredible shape. Ate well, personal trainer, just phenomenal guy. And I gave him a session, and he confessed to me when he came in 3 days later for his follow up. He says, Dave, I went immediately to the grocery store and I bought a large bottle of vodka, and I went home and just drank. And yeah, did you have a good time? I mean, did you add olives? Like, what did you do?
You
Um,
shake or stir.
but he said things came up, that he says he hadn't had a drink in 30 years, so he broke his sobriety over this. And I mean, it was all good humor and good stuff to share. But again, just to show what stuff pops up to get digested or whatnot. So again,
Yes.
the the phenomenal journey in our own life process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I will say my sleep after my session is incredible.
Yeah.
Now, this is something we can't do virtually, unfortunately.
No.
I wish it was. So those are in the area. You're in Tennessee now. I don't remember where exactly, but
I'm in Franklin, just south of Nashville.
Okay, Franklin, Tennessee area. And now for those that are in that area, how can they get in touch with you? And is there any way to, or a database or some sort of location where we could find a practitioner in our area, or should we contact you and you'll be able to help people out with that?
The best thing is just contact me. I'm happy to help. God willing, you're in a spot where there is somebody.
Yeah.
They're hard to find. Go on to brainbalancestudio.com. You could also find me on Instagram at Balance with Bransky, Bransky with a Y, or contact me directly at 615-567-3518.
Great. And I'll post links below and your number and your social media as well.
Great.
Before we wrap up the show, do you have any final thoughts or words for those who may be dealing with chronic pain and a lot of extra stress in their lives?
Just make a game plan. And again, it comes back to surrender. What are you holding on to? And is it worth holding on to? Eliminate the stories. If stories pop up and you're making excuses as to where and what, stories might not be true. If you had amnesia, you won't remember the story. So one step in front of the other, just surrender.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing this incredible modality with us. It's been life-changing for me. I can't live without it. So thank you so much for all the incredible work you're doing and for sharing it with us all today.
Thank you for having me on.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your body, the better you're able to stay healthy and prevent disease. And a quick reminder, I'm not your doctor, so please don't take this as medical advice. If you have specific questions about your health care, feel free to reach out to your practitioner. And if you like this video, please like it and share with others. This information could really help someone you may know, and hit that subscribe button and the little bell to be sure you don't miss out on our future shows. And I will see you all next Wednesday on our next episode of Discovering True Health.